There's no doubt that one of the biggest challenges for businesses today is attracting the right people, retaining the right people, and unlocking the potential in those individuals. So I want to share with you a really powerful principle, the 80-20 Pareto principle, which has got so many different applications, but it's really powerful when you apply it to your people strategy. Before we dive into that, let's not over-engineer our people strategy, make it more complicated than it needs to be. I think from a helicopter, from a strategic perspective, what we're trying to achieve is three things. We want to get the right people on the bus, the right people who align from a technical perspective, from a skills perspective, and from a cultural perspective. We want to get the wrong people off the books because they are toxins of culture and they will infect and pollute the other great people in your business. And then we want to get the right people in the right seats, doing the right things, focused on really adding value and driving your business forward. And in its essence, that's what your people strategy is about. But the right people in your business will catapult your business forward. The wrong people will set you back on your growth journey and really be an inhibitor to your growth ambitions as a business. So this is where I think the 80-20 Pareto principle comes in, which is a great when you analyze it against your people strategy. So the 80-20, as most of us will be familiar with, 80% of your sales comes from 20% of your products and services, or 80% of your profits come from 20% of your customers. Where I really like the Pareto principle is when you apply it to your people strategy, and this is how it plays out. That 20% of your people are your top performers. These are the people at the start of the year. You talk about the vision, you talk about the ambition, you talk about what they need to do and what success looks like, and they're already checking out the room. They're already in their minds out the room. They're delivering it. They're making it happen. 70% of your people are in the middle category that we call your hearts and souls. They're there or thereabouts. And 10% are what we call your disruptors or your sliders. Now, here's the first question. 20% top performers, 70% in the middle, and 10% disruptors. Where naturally does your attention and focus get drawn to as leaders and the focus in the business? And it's certainly not the top performers. It's not even the middle category. You get sucked into the bottom 10%. And here's my challenge with that. Even if you manage to turn the 10% in terms of disruptors or the people who are underperforming at the bottom of your business, even if you manage to get a 10% uplift in their performance, what impact or difference will that make on your business? And I think what's really important, yes, you need to deal with those individuals, but you need to make sure that your focus and your time is equally spread on where you're going to get the best return for your time, your effort, and your resources. So, for example, imagine you're getting towards the end of the month, you're 10% off your sales target, and you need somebody to pull it out the bag to get you over the line. Where are you going to go to? You're going to go to your top 20% performers because they're the ones that will be able to put their foot on the pedal. They're the ones who are probably in fifth gear, but they could move up that notch and get into sixth gear and just knock it out the park. And what's most important is that actually the recognition, the praise, the time that you spend with your top performers is disproportionate to the uplift in results that you can see. That's really important. A 10% uplift in your top performers, what difference would that make to your business? A 10% uplift in your disruptors or your underperformers, what impact would that make? It's a no-brainer in terms of where you're going to get the greatest focus. So in the 80-20 Pareto principle, you want to make sure that you are retaining, that you are recognizing your top performers, and you make sure they keep delivering for you because they're the ones who are knocking it out the park. In the middle, we've got this big category, the 70%. And what's interesting is when you take the 70% and you break it down like this, 20% of the 70% are your future top performers. Do you know who they are? What are you doing to nurture them? What are you doing to develop them? What are you doing to move them up a notch? So actually, you don't have just 20% in your top performer category. You've got 30% or 40%. Who are those 20% of your 70%? 40% of that 70 are always going to be your hearts and souls. They're the people who come to work. They come in at 9 o'clock. They leave at 5 o'clock. They will do a great job, but they've no ambitions of being the top performer. They've no ambitions of being a future manager or leader. They will just come in. Do we need those individuals in our business? 100% we do. They're our hearts and souls, and they're really critical to the success of our business. And then here's the watch out. The bottom 10% of that 70% are your potential sliders. And they might hang around with the disruptors at the bottom, or they can move up into the 40% and ultimately potentially move up into the 20% of the 70%. Do you know who your 10% are and what you're doing to nurture to make sure that they move up as opposed to move down? So here's the practical application of the 80-20 in relation to your people strategy. Number one, do you know who your 20% are, your top performers? Nurture, develop them, make sure that you've got them absolutely locked in and you are retaining and setting them up for success. Do the analysis in your 70% in that middle category. Understand who your future top performers are. Nurture your hearts and souls and make sure you prevent the sliders from slipping down into the bottom category, which are your 10% of your disruptors or your underperformers. And yes, you've got to deal with them, but deal with them in an effective way and don't have a disproportionate amount of your time which is focused on those individuals. So there you have it. People will either make or break your business. Let's go back to what we talked about at the start of the session. Get the right people on the bus, get the wrong people off the bus, and get the right people in the right seats doing the right things. And then you will build a robust people strategy that will allow you to realize the growth ambitions that you've got for your business.